You guys are in for a treat with this one. In today's episode, I'm sitting down with none other than Hamilton Souther, master shaman, founder of Blue Morpho, and one of the most respected figures in the world of plant medicine today. Hamilton has spent over 2 decades guiding tens of thousands of people through deep ceremonial experiences with plants like Ayahuasca, Wachuma, and Cannabis. And in this conversation, we dive into what he's learned along the way. We explore the truth about how these plants work, what they're really showing us about consciousness, and how they support our healing and evolution as human beings. We also unpack some of the biggest misconceptions in the modern plant medicine space, and talk about how to walk this path with humility, discernment, and respect for the intelligence of the plants themselves. And honestly, this one just feels like a beautiful catch-up between brothers. 2 people walking the same road, sharing stories, lessons, and laughter from the journey. So wherever you're tuning in from, take a breath, drop in, and get ready for a powerful conversation with a true master of the craft, my good buddy Hamilton Souther. Hamilton Souther, my man, dude, am I excited to be here with you today. You and I caught up recently, and I was like, man, do I got to get Hamilton back on the show and onto this show. Because I don't know if you've ever been on the Highly Optimized podcast, maybe way back in the day, but have you ever been on this one?
First of all, Ryan, thank you so much for having me here, and it was great to catch up. And I don't know, I think we were on Highly Optimized maybe years ago, but stoked to be back today and excited for what we have to talk about.
Yeah, it's going to be sweet. And you got Starlink since we last chatted. Your internet is primo, my dude, which is awesome considering you're coming from the jungle of Peru. You have better internet than a lot of the people I talk to in the States now. It's pretty wild.
Starlink is incredible. It went up during COVID, and it actually is right over the land that we live on, if you could believe it. So we could see the tracking satellites go over, and it's changed the game for us down here. Before that, we were on, no internet for the first 15 years, and then 3G cell phone networks and stuff. But man, this has changed the game, and super, super happy for it.
Yeah, dude, 100%. It's all that manifesting you guys are doing from that exact channel. You were all putting the focus on hey, this place is so rad. We want more attention here, right? And then they put Starlink in directly above it. You're like, thanks for manifesting it.
No doubt. It's an incredible time. I mean, the world is so dynamic now, and just what a time we're living in.
Yeah.
Between plant medicine, psychedelic renaissance, all the different ways to optimize our life, and, AI technology, and just what a time.
Dude. I couldn't have said it better myself. And, I am curious to ask you, man, because, I see a lot of people, and I imagine we share a very similar view that as within, so without, right? Whatever you see AI to be, or even psychedelics to be, or anything to be, is a reflection of who you are, not what the thing is objectively, right? And so I'm curious to hear from you, because I hear a lot of people being like, AI is the devil, or AI is going to do this and that. And they're all projecting their own unmet needs and challenges and trauma onto this subjective thing called AI. But I'm curious to hear your perspective on AI, because I know that you're someone who is working with AI, right? Is not afraid to work with ChatGPT or these kind of things, but also you're someone very connected to the land. I mean, you just said you guys were without internet for 15 years. Not only that, but you've been down in the Amazon for at least over 20 years now, doing ayahuasca ceremonies, working with plant medicine. And so you're someone who's extremely connected, more than 99% of people these days, to the earth and to the natural world of things. But you're also someone who's open to these new areas like AI and, tech and these kind of things. How do you kind of see this all fitting together? Do you have the doomsday point of view that some people do, or how do you kind of view these things working together? Do you see them symbiotically working together? What's your take on that?
First of all, I just take a very earth perspective. You take plant medicines a lot, you just feel connected to the earth, and you have this deeper awareness of, that we're all connected. And so I always ask the question to earth, think you're deep in medicine and you're just talking with the earth. Maybe you're channeling, maybe you're just making it up yourself. It doesn't matter. You're in this vision, you're feeling it. And I'm just asking the earth, what are you doing? What are you doing? Why do you want all these humans building all this tech? Earth, what are you doing? You're our home. Why all this advancement? What's going on with the human civilization? And, what I see is just continued progress. There's this continuous evolution with Earth, and we don't really remember our deep history. So we don't really see that the planet has been warring for a long time. as it's been growing and warring and growing and warring. And so it looks all fragmented to us, but really the whole thing is this tumultuous expression of humanity. And so I think that AI is part of that. And so there are people trying to weaponize it and bring it into the super industrialized military network. And they're open about it. There's, you know, you can just go look at it on YouTube and go see the companies that are involved and the people investing in it and stuff. And then there are people who are talking about, you know, great singularities and this transcendent state and, you know, super intelligence that actually saves humanity from itself. There's these like different narratives going on. And I just think they're all in a big competition. They're all playing themselves out at the same time. And, you know, the technology-based tools are not going anywhere. So when humans became dependent upon electricity, we're never going back. And when people decided to, you know, be part of computers and cell phones and media and all of that, we're not going back. And now that there's AI, we're not going back. And so I think we have to embrace the technologies. You can live connected to the earth, but still have telecom. And, you know, we need to embrace where this is heading. And what I think is really important is the idea that we promote benevolent and, you know, human forward natures of these technologies, not promote doom and gloom versions of the tech.
Yeah, dude, perfectly said. And, you know, what I hear in there too is that AI is maybe a more triggering lesson of really the same main lesson that we're all looking to do here, which is be conscious creators, right? Because if I go out there and I choose to create a reality that says AI is the devil, it's going to take over the world, transhumanism, whatever it is, right? Whatever the dark night of the soul is with AI. If I go out there and I give into that narrative, then I'm creating that reality. And what do most people that do that do? They never take the blame themselves. They project it out there because they have unconscious guilt that essentially stems from the seeming separation with God that never actually happened. And how that actually comes out and gets projected is very different from person to person. One person may think, you know, all men and women are XYZ, and that may be their narrative myth. Another person might say AI is the devil, but really it all comes from that same core wound, I feel, which is that unconscious guilt that we're not God, right? That we're the opposite of God, the ego world and things like that. And so, yeah, that's been something that it's been very interesting to see because a lot of spiritual people are out there basically being like, oh my God, AI is going to be this. And I'm like, really? Who says it's got to be anything, right? You're the one that's actually abracadabraing that myth more into reality and then blaming it on, you know, Palantir or whoever it is. And I might not agree with those people's choices, but like you're saying, AI's here. Kicking and screaming is not going to make it go away. So what's really going to help is that enough of the people that have done the inner work, right, that are aware of this, that are actually utilizing it to find ways around all these other nefarious type things that could happen with it. That to me is the only question is like, what am I going to do with this thing? Because it's here to stay. It's not going to go away no matter how much I kick and scream, no matter how much I think it's this or that. It's not going to go away. So what can I do with it? And so I love your perspective on it because, yeah, like you do some amazing things with it. You know, when we were chatting, you know, and catching up, I always love chatting with you because, like I said, you're so connected to both realms and you allow them to synergize in this beautiful way that I really think is the goal. You know, it's the goal in my life. Like I've had a lot of fun with ChatGPT and AI. I've also seen how if you're not aware enough, you know, that tool could maybe, you know, lead to some challenges in your life. But again, that's not the tool's fault. That's your own fault for not really understanding the power of it and then choosing to utilize it unconsciously. So yeah, I think anywhere we look, it kind of comes back to the same thing. You are the creator. What myth are you creating? Pretty cool.
Yeah, I love that. You know, right now, if you understand the nature of AI tools, you can't believe them.
Yeah.
Right. If you use them, don't believe them.
Yeah.
Everybody, including their owners, are telling you they're hallucinating, making things up. Right. You're playing a game with this like interactive computer, and it's not human and it's not intelligent in the way you are, that you can go make choices and understand the choices and reason what you're doing. This is like very early technology. You know, think about where AI will be in 100 years and 1,000 years. Think how where we were 100 years ago compared to where we are now, right? These are just accelerants to the nature of our development. People use things for nefarious reasons. People are nefarious. Right now, ChatGPT, if you don't go and type into it anything, it doesn't do anything. It sits there idle. So it's people who are nefarious using these for nefarious purposes, and we can use them to, better understand what's going on and help search the internet and create automations and simplify certain kinds of tasks for us. And so there's a reason to get involved and understand the tech. Dude, when I saw social media come out, I thought social media was going to be destructive. The very first time I ever saw it, I was like, why do you want to be identified like that? And why do you want to put all your personal information all over the internet? And people are going to use that to hunt you and slap ads at you and all this stuff. And lo and behold, it did. But billions of people didn't care. They didn't care at all. They just went for it. They're like, heck yeah, let's use these things. And they did. And look at what's happened now. Everyone's like, oh my God, the dopamine addiction. There's all these problems out there in the world. But in reality, humans embrace these things, whether they're good for them or not, whether it really supports their life or not. And so it really comes down to the individual's responsibility to decide how they want to relate to and utilize the nature of these tools. My thought is that these are tools that are so powerful that we have a chance to alter the course of humanity. We can change the direction that humanity is going to go if we can make them benevolent. And so there's a reason to think about it, and there's a reason to understand them. You can improve your life with them, and think about the possibility of changing the course of history from going from this like ever-present global conflict to something that's transcendent of that. I think that's possible with these technologies, not in their current form, but certainly, 10, 20, 30 generations of them down the line. And so that's why I am supportive of the ultimate development of the tech.
Yeah, it's interesting, and I never really thought of it like this until it just popped into my head. But, I always think about cannabis, and I could imagine pretty much every plant medicine works this way as a non-specific amplifier. So, again, when people tell me that cannabis made them anxious, I'm like, no, it just revealed your anxiety to you, and you weren't aware of it. So then you projected the guilt onto the plant, right? And so, when you think about AI, it's the same. It's a non-specific amplifier. It's going to amplify for sure whatever the user is putting into it. And like you said, and this is kind of the whole argument with guns and everything too, is kind of like guns don't actually kill people. It's people with messed up minds that use guns to kill people. And, a lot of people go back and forth in this debate. But for me, I only want to go after root causes. If we start banning guns, for instance, what does that really do? It just makes the people that were going to get guns anyway able to still get them. Nothing's going to change. They're already here. Right? The time to think about this would have been before there was ever one gun produced, And so with AI, it's here. And so at the end of the day, we have to think about, why would AI be nefarious? Is it because AI is inherently, nefarious? No, like you said, like AI is just AI. It just sits there in limbo, waiting for a user to input information into it that then allows that to lead certain directions where it gives answers and yada, yada. But until we start looking at the minds and the hearts of the individuals utilizing it and making it seem, let's say, nefarious, we're never going to find the answer. What do we want to do? Just like block ChatGPT or keep just singing a myth about how it's going to be dark? It's like, no, what we're seeing is a non-specific amplification on where a lot of humans are still at, aka ego-based consciousness, negative polarity, service to self, narcissism, power, dominance, control. That's what we're seeing magnified and amplified through AI. And so I think that's very interesting because, I think a lot of people don't have the depth to actually go deeper than just like the news told me that AI is going to ruin my life and I'm so upset. And it's like, yeah, well, once again, it's coming. So what are you going to do about it? That's the only question. And if you want to kick and scream, that's your choice, but you're not going to get led anywhere that has positive results.
Yeah, people who decide to, grab their life and start to make positive changes for themselves, take agency and sovereignty. And they stop being a product of propaganda and just negative emotional stories that are meant to keep you in lower vibrational states. And so at some point you come into your life and you say, wait, I can change, I can improve, I can be better, I can make my life better. There is social mobility here, but I got to work at it. I got to make really good choices and decisions. I got to navigate this minefield of my life in the best way I possibly can. I have to create opportunity for myself. I can't just expect opportunity to appear. I have to actually create that opportunity. I have to apply myself. And when I think of it from that perspective, this is where I think these very tumultuous and volatile times is actually a time of great opportunity. So like the great narrative out there wants to possess your mind with some kind of story, put you into a polarity, and then lower the nature of vibration to disempower you. On the contrary, when you see that coming, what you need to do is empower yourself. And that's where the whole point of personal development, personal growth, spiritual growth, the use of plant medicines becomes such an important tool to be able to break free from what I just call nonsense. Just basically like across the airwaves, lies being spewed incessantly, all day long, every day. And you just drop in with a little mushrooms, a little cannabis, a little ayahuasca or San Pedro, and you just break right through that. It just looks like baloney. You laugh at it. It's not true. And then you can ask yourself that question with the universe, which is, what are we doing? How are we co-creating? How are we improving ourselves? How are we guiding our own lives? And a lot of people act like life's happening to them, not that they're living it. That's like saying the wave is happening to you surfing. Like, no, you got to go catch the wave. And so this is where you have to use your own life force and your own energy and your own gumption, and you got to apply yourself. And when you do that, you can optimize and you can grow and you can learn new tools and you can really improve yourself. And it's not hard once you start to do it. Like all these, fitness programs tell you can get fit in 6 weeks, because you can get fit in 6 weeks if you do it. But you got to do it for 6 weeks. If you want to get healthy, you can change your diet and get healthy in a month. If you want to, change your relationship to your role and your work and the nature of technology, you just shut off the propaganda channels and start to turn on your own amplification and get into it. And, I found this in my early 20s with plant medicine way before the technology got strong. But we always thought of the plant medicines as another kind of tech. It was consciousness tech, spirit tech, it was altered state tech. And we knew it was ancient tech because the lineages down here had been using it for thousands of years. And so there's these, oral traditions that go back from before the time of conquest and the Spaniards, of people going deep with these and learning all about the cosmos and the world and themselves and stuff like that. So we knew that there was this like depth to all of this. And then the ceremonies and the plant medicine showed me that this is a really simple way to create a disrupt. You're like stuck in a rut. You hit some plant medicine and you drop in hard and you just break out of the rut and you move on, and you can start to apply yourself and create your own mobility. And that's what I see is going on now. The tools are there for our mobility. The people have shared the knowledge, wisdom, and awareness to be able to help you create that. There's ways to be able to do this safely. There's really powerful technologies available to us. We just need to grab them and start to wield them.
Yeah, dude, 100% agreed. And, it's funny. I have a name for all those distractions. You want to hear it?
Yeah.
So I call them all thirst traps, right? What you call nonsense. I also use the term nonsense, but I came up with thirst traps because it's funny. And once again, if I'm going to create a myth for myself, do I want to think there's dark, nefarious forces out there and oh my God, they're trying to, or do I want to think it's just a bunch of thirst traps? Because that makes me laugh, and laughter is the best medicine, because laughter only happens when you realize the paradoxical nature of life. And so for me, I've always referred to them as thirst traps, because again, then you just get to choose, because people get that when it comes to human beings, right? The very attractive person who maybe is manipulative, but they're a thirst trap, right? They're really attractive. You can fall under their spell or allow yourself to be fallen under their spell. But at the end of the day, you kind of know what they are, right? It's all right, they're trying to get something here. And I respect that, but I also don't have to engage with it. And so that's kind of how I see all these distractions in the world, right? The news, what's happening and you're drinking water, find out at 8 p.m. It's all just thirst traps. Because at the end of the day, and this is what, I just got back from Mexico. And Mexico, isn't as jungly, obviously, as Peru, I imagine. But, down there, you realize, man, people down there are not tapped into almost anything that a lot of us here are, and they're existing just fine, right? The 3IA Atlas is still coming to their world just as much as ours, but they're not worried about it. Why? Because they just don't know it exists. And if it shows up in something weird, they'll handle it then. But they don't need to be smothered to be informed. And I think that's the difference, right? The paradox there, or the kind of the dichotomy, is that I don't mind to be informed. Sometimes the entertainment show is hilarious. There's times where politics is just funny as shit. It's hilarious. And so utilize it for that. Utilize it for entertainment. I take my entertainment from it. I don't give my entertainment to it. And I think that's just like you said, like when you really realize you truly are the creator of your reality, you get a lot of responsibility because you can't blame out there anymore because out there doesn't really exist. It's just a reflection of who you are internally. And so I found that to be really powerful. And like you said, the reason I love plant medicine so much is because it's efficient. In this dream illusion here, we have this illusion called time. And in that illusion called time, our meat suit, aka our expression of individuality that we're having an illusion of or a dream of, is not going to be here forever. And so what I find is that if I can get to a desired goal more efficiently while I'm in this dream, I'm going to take that technology, that tool, and utilize it. And it's funny because, and I'm sure, I don't know if you get a lot of this, but I get a lot of it. Whenever I make posts about cannabis, there'll always be that one nobody that thinks they're so, just ready to comment, oh, you shouldn't need plant medicine, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, cool. Where are you using the same thing through Netflix or junk food or whatever it is? And I think the spiritual ego is something I've really got to see a lot in the spirituality space. And it's hilarious because like these are the same people that talk against all these things and then they have it and they don't think other people can see it, but we can see it. It's kind of weird. And so like for you, how do you handle that question, right? If someone says, oh, Hamilton, you shouldn't need plant medicine. How do you handle that? I'm just curious.
Yeah, I think they don't understand, I don't think it's even a real comparison.
Yeah.
You can meditate. No one's saying meditation doesn't work. You can go run and go get in a runner's trance. No one's saying that isn't, its own experience. Plant medicines are ancestral technologies that humans have been using for tens of thousands of years. There's evidence for it. This is not, just a theory. There's evidence that humans have been involved with consuming plants for a very long time. And, I think that's a response to the nature of like drug propaganda. The reality behind the plant medicines and their lineages is that they've had an important role in helping people discover amazing things about themselves, their own awareness, their own mind, consciousness, and open up to something much greater about the universe itself. There's a kind of like truth seeking that takes place inside it. So I honestly don't care if somebody else thinks they can or can't do this with or without plant medicine. Plant medicine has been a huge part of my life, and I don't even want to know what life is without it. Life before plant medicine was dull and boring, and life after plant medicine was dynamic, multidimensional, colorful, creative, and filled with great people that I got to meet and interact with from all over the world. Plant medicines are also healing agents. They're not just agents of a spiritual discovery. So there are lots of people that have had depression, anxiety, personal concerns, trauma, PTSD, and they've taken plant medicines and they're healed. Wait, what? They just take plant medicines and they're better? Not on pills forever, don't need a psychiatrist forever. This is now millions of people like this. So, if these other tools, could just do that for somebody, I think the people who are in need would have gone and just sat down and did a meditation and just popped out of their depression. So the fact that they didn't shows that there's something really important going on here about it. So I'm not saying it's the only gateway to spirituality. It's obviously just one of the many spiritual tools we have, but it's very purposeful for, the deep exploration that people have with it. And I'm grateful to be part of a lineage that has, thousands of years of tradition, and grateful that we get to continue to work with these plants.
Yeah. Great answer, man. And, the feeling I get now when people do that, when like someone who has no followers, they're just like, well, I think, right, on my profile, the way I think about it is kind of like this. If you've ever been around a kid before, and this kid maybe is like 3-4 years old, they're still perfectly in the realm of God. And so they're outside and they're using imagination and they think a whole world's happening, right? They're creating a whole world. They really are utilizing imagination. And they come in and they run up to you and they say, hey, I made you lasagna. And then they give you a cup full of dirt. And you have to be like, wow, so good, yummy, right? That's how I think about it when people come on my profile. They're like, well, I think you should need plant. I'm like, wow, that's so amazing. Congratulations. You're totally right. Have fun playing over there because I don't want to play with you. Because for me, how I think about it is nothing is for everyone, right? If it's for you, great. If it's not for you, great. And I think the more you level your consciousness up, the more that you kind of just become the Taoist farmer. Like, oh, this thing's great. Maybe. Oh, this is going to happen. Maybe. Like, it kind of embodies that quote, as wise as the man who knows he does not know. So if someone comes onto my profile and they say, hey, I tried it and didn't work for me, I'm like, okay, that's valid. I totally understand that. Maybe it's a different path for you. Maybe you don't need it in the same way other people do, or couldn't benefit in the way that other people do. And I can have a conversation with those people that are like, I tried it, I don't like it. Or maybe I never tried it, but I just don't resonate with it. And I can have a conversation around it. I'm like, okay, cool. We can agree to disagree. I'm fine with that. But the people that are like, well, I think, I'm just like, oh my goodness, man. Like, and it's always the people, I don't know if you notice this, but it's always the people with the smallest accounts that are like, well, you should do a debate with me and, spend an hour with me. I'm like, dude, who do you think you are? All right. Like, what do you think I have? Just a bunch of time to go after every troll that comments on my profile? So strange. But, I've learned over time that, like anything else, when people are saying that, it's because they actually feel very fucked up inside and they're terrified to do something like plant medicine. And so their kind of way their ego protects them around it is, oh, it's just not for me. You shouldn't need that. And it's like, oh, I think you're just really scared of what's going to happen if you take it, which rightfully so. All right. Everyone has the opportunity to feel into fear around these kind of things and whatnot. But to project it out, it's just kind of like, buddy, those who do mushrooms can see through what you're doing pretty easily. So it's kind of an awkward breakfast.
For sure. That nature of that debate to me just comes from people who are ignorant and they don't know themselves. They haven't had the experience.
Mm-hmm.
People have been consuming these plants for a long time. So if you think about it from that perspective, there's a reason and a purpose. I think each person has to find their own way in their life. When I came to plant medicine in my early 20s, I was depressed. I'd been through trauma. I had, questions around the direction of my life and purpose. I had big questions I wanted to understand. I felt like I was living inside a veil. Like there was this veiled reality, like you call it the dream. Like, we need to wake up from this thing. Like what's going on here? And I was begging to be able to find higher wisdom and deeper understanding. And that's what I ultimately found through the nature of these tools. I would have been happy to end up in a meditative lineage that didn't use plant medicines. But the lineage I found did, and they wielded them with power, precision, and purpose. And it just showed me that there's many paths out there, and you got to find your own. And for the people who really resonate with these plants, there's a deep bond that forms, and you get experiences that you just can't ever explain to somebody else. And so people come to Blue Morpho all the time. We run retreats year round, and people sit with the medicine. And they come out of it, and over 98% of the people, say that they had a powerful spiritual experience. Period. Yeah. They come out of it. They go, that was a powerful spiritual experience, Mm-hmm. Now, what's beautiful about that is they don't need to go convince somebody else they had that experience because they had it. That's like trying to convince somebody else you had your dream. Like you go to bed, you have this killer dream, you wake up, you're like, dude, I had this dream. And they're like, no, you didn't. You didn't need that dream. You didn't need to have that dream at all. You didn't need to have any of that experience at all. That did nothing for you. But for the person, they're sitting there going like, this changed my life. This showed me something more about myself and the universe. Right. And so it's deep inside that individual that gets to have that experience. That's what I think is so important.
Yeah, totally agreed. There was I think we actually chatted about this maybe a couple of years ago, but I won't mention the name, but there was a mystery school I was a part of. And I did not agree with a lot of the stuff they were doing. There were a lot of red flags, but I did enjoy some of the stuff I was learning. I was interested in hermetics and Kabbalah and things like that. So I wasn't throwing the baby out with the bathwater. I was like, okay, maybe they believe in the vaccine and that we're alchemists and they can just move it out of us and these kind of silly things they were saying. But the thing that really made me go, these are not the droids I was looking for was in one class, I watched one of the lineage holders try to tell the class that cocaine was better for your energetic body than cannabis. And that's when I was like, oh, my friend, you just went full retard. And right after that, it was funny when I was in the school, I didn't go in there to ruffle feathers. I wasn't going to go in there and be like, well, I use I was just like, nah, I'm in your court. I'm choosing to be here. I'm not going to be a disruption. All right. I know what I believe. For me, it's fine. But a lot of people, maybe it's the hair, I don't know. But a lot of people there just started asking me like, hey, like real quiet, like, do you do psychedelics? And I'm like, yeah. and it just started happening that a lot of people were starting to talk to me about it and being like, well, how do you kind of reckon with how the mystery school views plant medicine, whatever. I'm like, I just don't listen to when they say that stuff. Like, it just seems like someone who's never tripped hard enough to really see what's possible. And one of the women there said, yeah, I was mentioning to one of the high up teachers, and that I had this beautiful experience on mushrooms, like this beautiful ceremony, and really learned a lot about myself during it. And I was telling this individual, and they were like, oh, you can't learn anything from plants. You're not a plant. Why would you do plant medicine? And she literally looked right at me and she was like, I don't know. I thought they taught me unconditional love. And it was in that moment where I was like, this is not people wielding their power in the way that's responsible, because these people that are in this position of power are putting their own subjective opinions onto things. If they had just said, our lineage doesn't practice those, we don't recommend it, but it is what it is, I could respect that 100%. That's not an opinion. That's just, hey, it's not part of our lineage. We're not going to fix it. It's not broken. I get that. But when you start saying retarded shit, like cocaine's better for your energetic body, and why would you ever do a plant medicine? You're not a plant. I'm like, oh, really? You don't think we're part plant? You don't think our junk DNA connects to plants? You don't think that within the all, which is what we truly are, everything is within that all, because that's what the all means? And so plants and humans actually aren't any different when you zoom out and you actually start looking at it as just pure consciousness. That was something that I was like, my goodness, I am so grateful that I can see through silly things like that, because I'll tell you, a lot of people didn't. A lot of people were like, whoa, oh my God, I never thought about I wasn't a plant. And I'm like, oh my God, guys, you guys need to do some critical thinking here. But, again, things like that are just so silly. And these days I just chuckle at it. Because like you said, I'm like, well, apparently you've never done enough to realize that, like, I meditate every day, completely sober. Meditate every morning for 30 minutes. I do another 30 meditation during the day. I'll do hour-long meditations or 2-hour-long meditations, and I will get very deep, but nowhere near as deep as a strong dose of mushrooms. And maybe if I meditated for 5 days straight and fasted and whatever, yeah, maybe I could get there. But honestly, I don't want to do that. Like, that just seems inefficient. That's like people saying, well, why don't you just walk to California? Like, you have legs. You don't need to take a plane. It's like, yeah, you are right. But like, I got shit to do. If I can get out there faster, I'm going to do that. And so I think it's the same argument. And that's why I just think it's hilarious, man. So I wanted to ask you about it.
And like, I had a mentor early on in my early 20s. I couldn't, especially when internet was starting and people were just slapping opinions everywhere. I just didn't understand. And he's like, why do other people's opinions bother you, dude? Just like, that's their opinion. And I think today's day and age now, 25 years later, is even more important to understand that there's just this whole game of opinion being played, and you just got to have your own. You got to be strong in your own and be able to be, stable in your own understandings, and accept the fact that, look, a lot of people are going to have different opinions out there. And some of them are what I call bananas, just crazy. Like thinking that cocaine's better for you than a plant medicine, or thinking that, some kind of, thing that obviously has caused a lot of people problems is, somehow beneficial. And so I just came to this idea that you got to accept that everyone's going to have these different opinions. There's like a war of opinions going on right now. Everyone's fighting over who thinks they're right and stuff. And in the middle of that, you just navigate it yourself and you realize what's important to you. What I can say from my own experience is that every time I've worked with psilocybin, it's been impactful and important in my life. Every time I've worked with cannabis, it's been that way. And that you have to learn how to treat the plants with respect and intention and purpose, right? Or you're just getting high. You're just like taking them and then just in whatever mindset you are in, And so I think a lot of people don't understand when they come from a drug culture mindset that it's not just talking about taking the drugs, but it's about taking them and learning how to sit with them and be focused and be aware and have intention and purpose and connect to something deeper. And these plants are functioning as, core tools to be able to help you do that. Now, science is coming out around that. That's really important. It's showing, psilocybin is helping to create brain balancing and neuroplasticity. And it's showing that, everyone knows that cannabis opens up creativity and new ways of thinking, which is new neural pathways, right? If you're thinking all in the same way and you have some cannabis and you start thinking in new ways, those are new neural pathways that are forming, right? DMT is being shown that it's creating, all different directional communication through the brain. Well, obviously, these are important things then. This isn't just somebody making it up because they thought they got high. This is like now science backed, evidence backed, understood that this is fundamentally supporting the nature of how your brain communicates with itself, the neuroplasticity in your neural net, which is what you need if you want to make change. And I think when you can harness clear neuroplasticity, you can create it yourself with focused intention and consciousness, you then have a very powerful tool. So other people who don't get it, they're the ones missing out. And if you're talking about optimizing, you want to optimize with all of the tools that you have available to you and then know how to use those tools wisely, right? It's like anything else. It's not just take the thing, it's know how to wield it. And that's what I loved about the lineage I learned from. These guys are masters in wielding the plant medicine experience. And so that's where like the real power gets unlocked from it. And, I hope that people in their sort of closed-minded opinions and some of the whack things that they believe will ultimately wake up from that. But if they don't, that's just their opinion. And we sit in our own integrity and we know what we're doing.
Yeah. And you know what? Like, again, when we zoom out, the experience of someone who's talking shit around things they don't know about or whatever it is, that's just as valid as an experience in the eyes of creator as the experience we're talking about, right? Like, and that's what kind of gives me a lot of solace is that, it takes Darth Vaders to make Luke Skywalkers. And also like, if the all is looking to learn about itself, if oneness is looking to learn about itself through the illusion of somethingness, then any something is something they can learn from. And so I think that's really beautiful too, that, now when I see these people out there, I'm like, hey, cool. You're creating a universe for yourself. Awesome. It's valid in the eyes of creator. I may not agree with it in my subjective humanness, and that's okay. But, again, it takes those metaphorical Darth Vaders of like, oh my God, I do not like that flavor of ice cream to make you actually ask yourself, well, what flavor am I looking for here? Like, what is my actual flavor? And I think the great thing about plant medicine for me is that it just taught me what I didn't know I didn't remember. And that's the thing that I think the people are missing out on is that you just don't know what is in there until you know. And even when you know, you don't really know, but you understand that you don't know and that you'll never know. And I think that is a very important thing, especially in today's world. Because like you said, what is the internet other than just a collection of opinions? When I come out there and say something like I like cannabis or whatever, I expect to get flack back from people. And that's okay. Because I understand they're just opinions, right? They're like assholes. Everyone's got one. And at the same time, though, I also know that like I'm not saying a blanket statement like cannabis is the best medicine for everyone because I'm aware enough to realize it works really well for me. I'm going to share that info to find other people that resonate with my message. But also there are going to be a lot of people that don't resonate with it. And that's okay. Because if everyone used cannabis, it wouldn't be as individualized as it is. If everyone did ayahuasca, I mean, that'd be a really beautiful world, I think. But at the same time, like there is obviously a lot of experience that creator can learn about itself from the unconscious as well. Like walking through a lifetime completely asleep is also just as fun of a game as being completely awoken when you're the all or when you're God. And so I think that there's always going to be dichotomy in people that don't agree and whatever, which I think is fine. But, I think that the more you get into this stuff, the more that you tap in and the more that you also do things like meditation, breathwork, whatever on the side, what has happened for me is now that I've opened up so much through those journeys, it's kind of like once Pandora's out of the box, it doesn't go back in, So now that I know certain things are possible, I know they're possible. So I can now get there without necessarily always getting help from plant medicine. But also there's always more to open up. And that's where the plants have really become my teachers. Just like in grade school, it's not like you complete grade 1 and it's like, why am I going to grade 2? Everyone understands there's going to be more complex knowledge or maybe more just knowledge in general at grade 2 than grade 1. Then you go into grade 3 and grade 4. And I think that the argument I've always seen for intention and like, really having that awareness of what you're doing, why you're doing it, and what you're looking to get from it is that if you don't do that, there's not really any lessons learned. It's kind of like you go to school and you're the class clown, you're just throwing paper airplanes all day. And then at the end of the year, they're like, sorry, you got to repeat this grade. And you're like, oh man, like all my friends are going up there. So if we don't use intention, right, like we're not really learning anything. We're just having an experience. And again, that's valid. I'm not here to knock it. But for me, I only had to have a few of those experiences where I like didn't really retain anything to realize like, oh, dude, it's way more fun to come back with the awareness of me actually having the intention. That way, when I meditate the next day, I can work on getting there. And the next time I do plant medicine, I'm like, holy shit, grade 5 just opened up. Oh my God, now let me stabilize that. And that's been really fun for me. And so that's why I'm totally in agreement with you on the intention part. I think that's the most important part of life in general, is just being intentional. That's your ability to create your reality.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, we learned that intention is the core code that guides you, right, in your relationship with the rest of the world. And I love this idea of remembering, because so many people just forget. You're like, ask them, why were you born? They don't remember. Why are you here? They don't know. What was your purpose of this incarnation for you? They don't know. Who were you in your past lives? They don't know. So it's like there's this amnesia going on. Yet then you talk to plant medicine people, they have answers for all of that. Right. And so there's this like context that comes through the nature of remembering. And then in that you learn like we're in co-creative relationship here with our world. We are in a manifesting world. Right? We can manifest, we can set our intention and set goals, and we can make those things happen in our lives. And that's where we learn that there's this core language with the universe that when we learn how to use it is the most powerful secret that we have inside of us. And it goes untapped because we're not taught about it in school. We're just taught to show up at school, go to school, take the classes, get the grades, whatever, try to get these like little dopamine hits of things we want right now, that little bit of sugar that makes us happy right now. But we forget this bigger context going on. And all of that comes through intention. And that is what takes us and helps us graduate. We learn the power of intention as the core way of how we ultimately navigate the nature of those experiences. So not only do you get to have the most amazing night ever going into a plant medicine experience, but you also get to navigate it. And you get to retain the information that you find within it. And so it's this expansive learning experience. And it starts to fundamentally change how you engage with your life. We have students that are now, in our second year in the academy, and they're telling us that systematically, like day by day, week by week, month by month, their lives are just improving. Every single aspect of their life is getting better. Their finances are better. Their health is better. Their relationships with their loved ones is better. Their romance is better. Sex is better. Everything is better in their lives. They have more time. They have more capacity. And if you ask them why, and they say it's the implementation of the intention plus the plant medicine work together made it possible. It broke free of the negative self-sabotaging patterns, and it opened up their ability to make really simple new choices that was just better. And that's like what you're saying, like going from grade 2 to 3 to 4 to 5. And so having this opportunity to unlock this power and be part of it is amazing. Like, why wouldn't you want to have that opportunity?
Yeah, 100%, and it's funny because I really enjoy this dichotomy of forgetting and remembering, because I really think that's the only question I get to ask myself now that really matters, which is, am I forgetting in this moment of who and what I truly am, nature of reality, what my purpose is, etc., or am I remembering all of that? And what I've found is that plant medicine opened me up to the ability to even realize there were things to remember. And, what's funny about this is that if you ask a 3-year-old those questions, right? Who were you in a past life? They'll have some answers for you, right? They'll have answers because they still remember. They haven't lost and forgotten yet. And then as we start to become around 6 years old and our ego starts to develop, well, the Western world actually completely rewards ego-based consciousness. They want you to identify as an individual. They want you to start memorizing things in school. They want you to start building this identity. And so again, that's neither good or bad. It just is a thing. And so at the end of the day, we start forgetting pretty early in life. But I would imagine, I haven't been to Peru, but I've been to Mexico and some other places like that. The kids down there, they remember a lot more. They don't know they do necessarily all the time, but you can feel it when you're an aware human being. Because that's what plant medicine did for me. It like tapped me back into like, oh my God, that's what's really going on here. It was almost like I was having a dream, and then I woke up in that dream and realized, oh my God, I was just totally dreaming. And this is like where I'm really meant to be. And I think that's so beautiful because, at the end of the day, why would, working with plant medicine and these kind of things make all of those areas aforementioned by you better? Well, because it's tapping into something that resonates into every fiber of your life. which is the nature of reality itself, of love, of joy, of who and what we truly are. Because when you remember that who and what you truly are is infinite, that you were never born and therefore you can't die, and what is real can never be threatened. When you remember those things and you start to viscerally integrate them into your body, mind, and spirit, it makes everything more joyous. When someone in my life passes away that I love, yeah, it hurts, right? It hurts, but it hurts in the way of like, I want this to hurt because it shows me how much I love them, but it doesn't hurt in the way of, oh my God, they're gone forever, which is haunting. And there's a difference between hurting and haunting. I enjoy hurting. It's part of the human experience. I don't want things, aka the past that isn't real, to haunt me. I want to be able to keep moving forward. And I think that's really the definition I have of resiliency, is how quickly can I come back to stability, baseline, neutrality, whatever it is, and keep moving forward. Are there parts of my soul that are being left in the past because I'm having fractures, because I don't really remember who and what I truly am, the nature of reality, that we're all one, these kind of things. And so I think that's really just so special. And I'm very grateful that I remember it enough in this lifetime to connect with plant medicine and open me back up to all of the things that now I work on every day in meditation, breath work, et cetera. So it's been really powerful, man. And I'm so grateful for people like you, as mentors of people like me, really out there holding the flame high for the last 20 years or more, giving all of us that are starting to tap into these things more and more confidence that we're not crazy like the mainstream world told us for so long. And like you said, you have the academy and all these amazing things that people might not know about. It's been a while since I've had you on the show. What do you have coming up as we come to a close here that you'd like to share? Because guys, I will just say, Hamilton is my medicine guy. All right. Like, any question I have, which is part of the selfish reason I love interviewing you, bro, because I get to check these things by you and just see how your brain thinks about them and how your heart thinks about them. But, guys, if there's one person I recommend more than anyone in this space, when it comes to true shamanism, working with ayahuasca and San Pedro and all these beautiful plant medicines, it is Hamilton. So Hamilton, what do you got coming up, man? Because I know my audience is going to love to hear what you got going on. And I'll also say real quick, I have a couple friends personally in your academy, and they fucking love it, dude. They're always telling me, Jason Borenstein, a couple other people, always like, dude, I'm having so much fun in here. And that's another thing, is you have a lot of fun. Like, your work is so intimate and passionate, but it's also really fun. And that, to me, is how I tell who a true master is. Like, can they know all this stuff and guide this incredibly intentional space and still laugh? Because that's the two worlds. And when you can merge those, true magic happens. So what do you got going on, bro? I'm so excited to hear about it.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Our academy is going, and I want to invite everybody to come and be part of it. We have a level 1 training that teaches you all about sitting with plant medicines, like we've been talking about, and how to use them to empower yourself, optimize your life, and be able to be there for others as well, so that you can be the person that holds space for others. It could be with friends and family. It could be professionally. But the idea is to get the power of mental health and the power of this kind of intentionality, the plant medicines and transformation in your hands. We want you to know how to be able to wield these plants all the ways we've been talking about on the podcast. So we have a really special offer for you guys to come and be part of the academy. And so I just wanted you guys to have that opportunity. It's an 8-week program with an additional 4 bonus weeks. You do it online. We have calls every 2 weeks to be able to go over all the different kinds of Q&A, and I mentor you guys. And we have a ceremonial archive. So you have all these different ceremonies that you can do to practice and learn how to be able to have those ceremonies, and also use the plant medicines to change your life. You get lifetime access to the core training, and we're even going to give you a microdosing protocol so that you know how to not only use them in macro doses, but also in microdoses. So we want to invite you to the Academy Level 1 training, and just really excited to invite you into our community. And with that, you can come down to Blue Morpho. You can have discounts on retreats, and you get all of these added bonuses. So join our training, empower yourselves, and I really look forward to having the opportunity to mentor you.
Heck yeah. I am so excited about it. And, it's funny too, because, when you think about things like this, for everyone listening to the show, you might have heard me say this before. I don't know if I've ever said it actually on the show, but some of you guys are students of mine and things like that. You might have heard me say it, but chances are, spoiler alert, you're the one in your family. Okay. So for everyone listening to this, just close your eyes if you're not driving or anything, and just really feel into the fact that, like, you are the one in your family. Okay. You're the one that's listening to me and Hamilton Souther right now talk about plant medicine and AI and all these kind of things. And your mom, your dad, your brother, sister, cousins, whatever, they might not be aware enough to think about these things. And that's okay. It doesn't make you better than them. Doesn't make them worse than you, but it's just a thing. You are starting to figure out how to actually live a fulfilling life. You are the one that's starting to remember before other people in your lineage. And I would like to say that is intentional, that you signed up here to be the one that starts to get into the hobby of up-leveling consciousness, while other people might be focused on making a lot of money, or whatever it is. And those things are not bad either, right? You decided first to work on your consciousness and start to see through the nature of the dream world before you started having fun in the dream and doing all these other things. So what I want to tell you is it's going to be challenging in the regular world to find these kind of teachings and this kind of information. And that is why people like me that have been learning from Hamilton Souther for years sought out people like Hamilton, because we're not going to find the answers we're looking for in more myths, okay? Most of the world is trying to get you to believe more in the dream, all right? They're telling you this is reality. This is what the science says. This is what so-and-so says. But if you understand the nature of reality, you understand that the observer effect is a thing, right? So every piece of science, in a way, is flawed based on the bias of the individual creating the study. And so there comes a point, like Carl Jung says, and Paul Chek says this all the time, where you got to clean up, grow up, and show up for yourself and individuate. And that process can be very challenging in a world where people are not really focused on that or aware of it. And so people like Hamilton, when you train with him, he's not going to be trying to teach you a bunch of things, right? I mean, he is, but what he's teaching you is actually how to subtract, not add. Because when you subtract, you actually remember you're the all. And from that space, you can choose to add whatever you want to add. But that's what true medicine workers, in my opinion, do. They teach you about subtraction, not addition. Addition is actually much easier of a myth to fall into in the world. I must just need to take another class. I must need to do that. Hamilton's class is not just another class you take and you get a gold star at the end and you put it on your wall and A+. It's the course where you'll remember forever before you took that and after, because there's going to be two different worlds. There's going to be the world you were in before and the world that opened up to you after. And so if you're really feeling resonant with this, guys, if you're feeling like, yeah, I resonate, I'm the one, like, and again, it's not an ego thing. It's not like you're the, like, you know, it's just that you're the one that happened to get into this niche of up-leveling consciousness, which is the number one thing to being able to actually understand what the hell is going on here. So if you're that person and you're looking for these kind of trainings, Hamilton is who I recommend. And I'm like, sure, it all goes in the show notes, bro. I'm just so grateful to be able to call you a brother in my life, man, and be able to ping ideas off you and get so much inspiration, man. It's always a pleasure having you on the show, bro. So fun.
Yeah, thanks so much, Ryan. I love it. And I look forward to many more conversations. And I wish you the best day.
Hell yeah, bro. And I got one last question for you. I think we got a couple minutes. So my last question for you is this. And I don't know if I've ever asked you this, so I'm just going to ask it the normal way, which is, if someone listening to this show could do one thing to highly optimize their life, what will Hamilton Souther suggest that change be, or that shift be?
Embrace plant medicines.
Yeah,
They're the fastest accelerant there is to growth and development. They're an incredible tool. They help you wake up from the dream and remember. So embrace plant medicines in your life and make them a safe part of your life, knowing how to wield them with power and precision and harness everything we've been talking about.
Yes, 100% agreed. You know, like I say often, guys, if you've ever had a lucid dream versus a regular dream, which one was more fun? Probably the lucid one, right? Why? Because I was aware, blah, blah, blah. Okay, that's exactly the reality we're in. Your dreams every night are just a microcosm of the macrocosm we're living in. So isn't it more fun to be a lucid dreamer than just a dreamer? So guys, I hope you enjoyed this. Make sure to check out the show notes. I'm going to have all the info on what Hamilton spoke about. And like I said, this is the guy that I trust with all my plant medicine questions. I'm so excited to go down to Blue Morpho in Peru and check out everything and get to meet him in person. And for any of you guys out there that maybe have someone that you think could benefit from this podcast, make sure to send it to them, all right? You're the one, okay? It's who but you, all right? If not you, then who? So if you have anyone that you think would love the show, send it out to them. Have some fun with it. If you like the show, give us a 5-star rating. We appreciate it forever. And until next time, guys, may the source be with you to infinity and beyond. Peace for now.